Hello BookTube, James here again with another video. If you're wondering why there was no video on Monday, then you've become far too accustomed to me having some sort of schedule. No, unfortunately, Mondays are reserved for reviews of books, and as I mentioned in my Sit Down Saturdays video, I don't finish a book this week, unfortunately, so there's no book for me to review, and therefore now it's Wednesday, I have no book to do a discussion video on. So that means we do have to branch out into the muddy waters of original, unique content, which is dangerous and scary. But I think I've got something for you today. Today I'm going to be doing what I call the character clinic because, as we all know, alliterative video titles are the way forward in life. So today we're going to be basically just having a little chat about a character, and that character, as you can see from the title, is Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher books. I've been going on and on now about the Witcher books for a long time. The next review is going to be for the Sword of Destiny, which is the second book in the Witcher saga. So if you really don't like Witcher content, you're really going to struggle for the next week or so. But today we're going to be doing the character clinic, where I take a look at a particular character, in this case Geralt of Rivia, and I tell you why I think they're a good character and what the author's done to really sort of make them pop, in my opinion. So, Geralt of Rivia. Who is he and what does he do? Geralt of Rivia is the Witcher. In this case, the Witcher means he is a small boy who was abducted in youth, turned into a mutant, trained in sword fighting and some minor magic arts, and given all of the knowledge needed to hunt deadly monsters to save the peasantry of the Northern Kingdoms, which is the setting for the Witcher books. And as part of this process, the Witchers go through what's called the Trial of Grasses, where they are obviously mutated, and all of their emotions and feelings are supposedly stripped away. And that is the key word, supposedly, because much like all things with The Witcher, half of it is true, half of it is folklore, and there's that little grain of truth in the middle. Geralt of Rivia is a very interesting character, in my opinion. He's one of the sort of true morally grey characters that I've come across in my reading life. A lot of credit goes to George R.R. Martin and other sort of fantasy authors for creating more morally grey, diverse characters with sort of Game of Thrones and everything. But I think The Witcher strikes the best balance in someone who is neither good nor evil, and is deliberately so. He is deliberately a neutral presence. He is often described as a man just doing his job. This is sort of the perception of what The Witcher is and who Geralt is as a person is a big theme in the books, because it really is a contrast between how Geralt sees himself and how other people view him. There is a lot of instances in the books where people will confront Geralt and accuse him of being a certain way based on how they perceive witches as a profession, without really knowing him as a person at all. For example, there are instances where nobles and whoever is trying to hire Geralt for a job will try to swindle him out of money and claim that his services are he's being extortionate and things like that. But Geralt's view is that he's a professional, he's being paid to do a job, and he should earn that reward. There are a lot of characters as well that take a more glamorized view of the Witcher way. There is particularly in the first short story in Sword of Destiny, there's a character who describes a war between chaos and order, with monsters on one side and witches are standing on the other side. And this is a point that Geralt really rankles at. He says that I think the direct quote is, "You're very quick to try and put me on one side of the palisade in a war that has nothing to do with me," which is it's very telling of his character. Like, Geralt is a man who has no real connection with the ideas of good versus evil, insofar as he doesn't believe in this big cosmic sort of war raging, with him being on one side or the other. His job is to fight monsters, because monsters kill people, and that's not great, and they pay him to do it, and that's what he's trained to do. He doesn't sort of find any ideology, he hasn't got like an ideology involved in that. He does have, though, an ideology, and he does have morals. They just don't extend so far as the monsters he hunts, and that's sort of where people from the exterior perspective misunderstand Geralt. They often think that because Geralt is paid to fight monsters, that he will be paid to fight anyone. This is a key theme in the short story A Question of Price, where a queen approaches Geralt and wants him essentially to be an assassin for him, and he says, you're the next one in a long line of kings and leaders that have completely misunderstood my profession. I'm not a hired killer. And then there are other people who think, that even what he does is morally corrupt in killing monsters. It's very deep, the sort of moral ambiguity towards his profession. And Geralt himself tries to sort of remove himself from that ambiguity by having his own witcher's code. There are certain things he will and won't do, but there are times where you will see that Geralt is challenged in his beliefs, and is forced to do things that he would characteristically not want to do. That is very true in what is the short story called? It's the one where he becomes the Butcher of Blaviken, basically. It's the Lesser Evil, yeah. So in the Lesser Evil, Geralt sort of states his moral philosophy on the idea of evil, where somebody asks him to kill someone that is ostensibly potentially cursed, but we never find out if they were really cursed or not. And the argument put forward to Geralt is that killing that person would be the lesser evil because they are corrupt and evil themselves. Geralt's reply is that he doesn't believe in a lesser evil. There is only evil. So all evil, like evil is evil in Geralt's eyes. There isn't a shades of grey in that. So it's weird in that Geralt is a very neutral character, but he does still believe in the idea of a good and an evil. He just doesn't see himself as on either side of that debate. And that's interesting from obviously a moral philosophy perspective. The other sort of unique things about Geralt are his emotions. This idea that witches are stripped of feelings. I think there is a very good argument to be made that witches are not stripped of their feelings as part of their mutations, but are rather sort of trained in such a way that they can't really understand the emotions of other people and their motives. Witches are, as I said, they're taken from very young age, mutated and trained to fight monsters, and are educated in the idea of fighting monsters and how to become the best witcher possible. And part of that would be to not really get attached to the people that you're helping, because otherwise you might become like these other sort of more noble characters that go out and hunt monsters just because monsters are bad. They don't seek reward for it. But, Geralt is a man of emotions. He does have strong feelings. There's a particular short story in The Sword of Destiny where it's a very condensed love triangle situation, where the other party in the love triangle, that's Geralt's rival in this case, says to him, I don't even know why you care. Witches are emotionless like freaks. And Geralt just obviously correctly says, maybe you're right. Maybe I don't care, but actually it's quite obvious that I do. So, it's obvious in this case that Geralt is a man of feeling, and witches do have emotions. I think they just have problems with processing those emotions and expressing them and understanding the emotions of others, especially with people like Dandelion. So Dandelion is obviously Geralt's best friend, and I think the fact that that is the case speaks highly of Geralt's sort of desire to have a more human connection, because Dandelion is almost everything Geralt is not. He's a gregarious, sort of womanizing, freewheeling poet guy. So he's not violent. He doesn't have a stake in the death of monsters and all this. Geralt's very grim world is made more light by Dandelion's presence, and Dandelion is sort of like a social vector for Geralt to express himself through, because as a bard, Dandelion tells Geralt's story and things. And there's a great in A Little Sacrifice, which is one of the other short stories. There's these brilliant moments of Dandelion explaining to Geralt like what the motives behind some people are. Geralt can't understand why anyone would listen to Dandelion's songs, because Dandelion's songs are not the truth. Dandelion's songs are all exaggerated. Fairy tales are exaggerated, and Geralt has a very strong propensity against these things. He's like, these are not the facts. People are obsessed with these ideas of true love and like heroes fighting monsters, and he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it at all. And Dandelion explains to him, the reason why he does what he does, and people believe the way they do, is because to not do so would be so bleak and so grim, that it's just not viable for a happy life. And that's a real sort of tragic point of Geralt's character, is that he can never really have this peaceful, blissful ignorance life, because he is so educated in this certain area and so steeped in death and violence that he's never going to have that as a character. And that's a real it was a real turning point for me as a reader of the series in understanding his character and how truly really tragic his character is. The Sword of Destiny, the short story collection, is absolutely fantastic for highlighting all these different aspects of Geralt's character. And eventually, like, obviously his love, like his romance with Yennefer and his sort of fatherly relationship with Ciri, all go against these sort of perceptions of witches as uncaring, unfeeling monsters. And I think there's just something so interesting about that, about the juxtaposition of how people view him and how he views himself. And I think this book, The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny, and then all of the Witcher books, do a really fantastic job of exploring that. And that's really all there is to say about Geralt of Rivia. I say it's all there is to say. I've been going on for a long time. But thank you for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more of this style of video, do leave a comment below and just tell me, if this worked for you, what you think I could improve on it, and maybe what other characters you'd like to see me do a discussion on. I'm trying to sort of branch out with the BookTube content a bit and do more things like this. So hopefully it gets a thumbs up from you. So subscribe if you liked it, and I will see you on Friday for Fun Friday. Bye, guys.